look at Article 43, which the President has spoken about very passionately, on the issues of health, if you look at the Social Health Authority Act, Parliament, National Assembly passed it. If you look at the Primary Health Act, it was the National Assembly that passed it. If you look at the Emergency, Chronic and Critical Illness Fund, that is the National Assembly. If you look at the Digital Health Act, that's the National Assembly. So on the issue of health, under Article 43, we have made our part. On education, currently we have several laws. We have already, just yesterday, we were debating the an amendment to the Basic Education Act, because again, that's a right. It's a socio-economic right under Article 43, and further to that, there's more amendments that are going to the Higher Education Loans Board, the Tertiary Institutions Act, the Education Assessment Act, and so on. All those are ongoing. If you look at the right to water, again, we passed the National Water and Storage Authority Act, and that is already in place. If you look at the issue of housing, the Housing Levy Act was passed in Parliament. If you look at the changes in Parliament to be able to allow an increased amount so that we can have increased savings in the country, so that we are not borrowing money from other countries, but we can borrow our social security on the money that is given to senior citizens by government. Again, that took an act of Parliament. So we can categorize of the Ruto administration. We have been able to do our part. On the issue of the right to food, we are able to attain the issue of food security. The courts on many cases has castigated Parliament over public participation, and that's why the Public Participation Act is currently before the House and has gone to the Senate. Again, the National Infrastructure Fund, that's an act of Parliament. The National Sovereign Fund Act, that's from the National Assembly. The government-owned enterprises, that's also that. And just to tell you that Parliament is sensitive to the people, because we represent the people, and that's what the spirit of our Constitution says. When we had the crisis in the Strait of Hormuz, and the prices of fuel was going to go very high, immediately, in exactly one day, we sat until midnight and amended the Value-Added Tax Act to be able to bring the price of fuel to at least an acceptable level. So yes, Parliament is doing its part to be able to implement the Constitution. On the matters of oversight, every single day, when we are not sitting in plenary, we are calling to account the executive. I know that the Auditor General was here, and yes, you many times hear the voice of the Auditor General when she has audited a certain institution. Most of the time, it's announced publicly, even before it comes to Parliament. Remember, it does not end with the Auditor General. That report, the Auditor General must bring to the National Assembly, then the relevant committees review them, and then are able to give sanctions where required or give recommendations where required. In the past, Parliament was behind in about 6 or 7 years. But today I can confirm to you as chairperson of the Liaison Committee, the chairpersons have confirmed that Public Accounts Committee is now at 2024-2025 financial year. PIC, the same thing. So we have managed to review the reports. And the challenge had been before that there was only one committee dealing with it. After that, the PIC committee was split into thematic areas so that they can be able to work faster. We've deployed several staff to them to be able to do that. So yes, oversight is live and indeed. And today, we go on recess as Parliament. And people think that we go on holiday. Actually, every single committee is sitting for 3 straight weeks to complete their reports, because we are also alive to the fact that it's a year. So yes, I can confidently say that Parliament has done its job, continues to do, and and we have had continuous improvement. We recently had a state of Parliament report, and we're able to see that we've done this much and we need to make certain changes. Like now we know our standing orders have to be changed so that we can have the Public Accounts Committee can be in four of them in thematic areas so that we can work faster for better oversight and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. And let's account for that. Parliament has passed legislation. The question is, has Parliament processed legislation or passed legislation? When it comes to executive oversight, is Parliament oversighting the executive, or is Parliament, for lack of a better word, tapping the executive on the back?
Not
or
at
on
all.
the wrist?
I think, when you say that we are passing government bills, you must remember we have someone called the majority leader in Parliament. The single job of the majority leader is to table government bills, because if the government has to work, the laws have to be passed. So that is his job. Then there is private members' bills, and then the minority also are able to bring various bills, like the bill on the Basic Education Amendment Act yesterday was by Honorable Olwoch, who is from the minority side, and he has been prosecuting it for almost 2 years. So yes, Parliament is not a rubber stamp, as you try and say. That's a rumor by the media. All right.
The Honorable Speaker, Moses Wetangula, recently spoke of some MPs receiving letters for appointment of teachers. And I know that matter was live, even in Parliament, by some members of Parliament yesterday. As the head of Parliament, how do you respond to this? Is Parliament an extension of the executive, or the recruitment agency of the executive?
Okay, Latif, let me remind you again politely that we're here to discuss and take stock of Katiba at 16.
Indeed it is.
And so I have not come here to discuss rumors that are out there. What you can do, when I come to your TV station, that will be a valid question to ask. So I politely decline to answer.
Okay. Let me remind all of us that we are here to account for Katiba at 16. It is our constitution. The offices that we created are accountable to the...
Yesterday, the Education Committee was waiting to summon the Teacher Service Commission, because that is the independent commission that is charged to do with the recruitment of teachers. If they are doing it in a different manner other than provided by the law, then they are the ones to be called to account. And that's why I'm saying that's a conversation for another time, not today.
There's no better day than today, but let's move to the next one. Honorable Speaker, Amason Kingi, you're Speaker of the Senate. You served as the county governor for 2 terms, and you know the role of the Senate that we, the people, established is to defend and promote democracy, devolution. And I want to ask today, is the Senate protecting counties? And can you give us examples where the Senate has actually protected counties, and from what?
Thank you for that question. Indeed, the constitutional mandate of the Senate is basically that, to protect the interests of the county governments. And it does that in different fronts. First is when we are doing the division of revenue between the national government and the county governments. That is where the Senate then pronounces itself as a defender of the county governments. You will note that since inception of devolution, because of the the spirited fight by the Senate, the shareable revenue going to the counties has gradually been increasing. So yes, we have been fighting so hard to make sure that the county governments do not get a raw deal when it comes to sharing the revenue between the national government and the county governments. The other instances, of course, where the Senate comes in to protect the county governments. You've heard of this issue that is, I believe, still very much alive. That touches on the roads, for example. There has been a push from the national government on how to reclassify roads beyond what is presently provided for under the Constitution. And I think the Senate has taken a very firm stand on how we should handle that matter, again, protecting the interests of the county governments. So yes, the Senate has been there for and on behalf of the
been instances, Honorable Speaker, when the Senate has felt the national government overreaching
preserve of the national government and the functions that are preserved of the county governments. For the period that we have experienced devolution, there has been, of course, a delay in unbundling these functions. And, but by and large, as we speak today, at Katiba at 16, a lot has been done, and unbundling has been done. What I think is remaining is costing of those particular functions. But again, under our law, a county government can enter into an agreement with the national government. Maybe a function is a preserve of that particular county government, but they can enter into an agreement with the national government to allow the national government to actually undertake that particular function. In such a case, we cannot say the national government is overbearing.
All right, I want to just progress that conversation to, of course, the Chair of the Council of Governors, Honorable FCP Abdullahi. As Governor, who's also in your second term, are there instances where, as governors, you felt that the national government, and I'm not talking about the administration, I'm talking about the national government, has overshot its mandate to claw into devolution?
Thank you very much, Eric. Before I answer your question, let me set mine like everyone else was doing. Devolution has done extremely well, and it's the, that everyone here that has been on this podium has said it's that one single takeout that has been very beneficial to Kenyans out of our 2010 constitution. And without giving numbers necessarily, if you just look at the expansion in healthcare, in agriculture, in early childhood education, the distances that have reduced for fetching water and all, the number of hospital beds, and I have the data here in a very refined manner, devolution has done extremely well. Now, on the issue of national government and the whole matter of clawback, you'll have to understand that in a robust democracy such as ours, and where we came from, you know, we were not 47 countries coming together. We were one country, and we were not coming out of war, right? We had a very strong centralized government. And the clamor for the new constitution was partly to spread that power at the center and devolve resources and decision-making over those resources. So there'll always be areas of conflict between national and county government. And this is why we have a very elaborate architecture of intergovernmental relations. And we try as much as possible to solve you know, disputes intergovernmentally, right? And at times then, when we don't quite agree, that's why we have courts. And this is the same everywhere. I was just checking the number of cases that US states filed against the Trump government in the last 2 years. There are over 100. So this is normal. And two, clawback globally of decentralization, because devolution is a form of decentralization, doesn't really have to happen through change of law. It mostly happens through, you know, administrative procedures, yep. Right? Bureaucrats, sometimes even middle-level bureaucrats at national government might send out circulars and do certain things which then impede or gridlock implementation by decentralized units. And this is why we have IBEC, you know, the Intergovernmental, you know, Budget and Economic Council, headed by the, chaired by the Deputy President. where we meet and, discuss these things. And many times we disagree, many times we agree. We have summit, where as a body of governors, the council, we may even disagree with the president, right? And we come back together again to see how we refine, certain procedures. So I would say, largely, we've done very well.
Right.
And sometimes some of those administrative interventions are necessitated not so much by, the clamor for clawback, but just to get things more standardized, right? Especially in the area of health, technology, equipment, for instance. We might be quite protective of that space as governors, but again, when you look at what, for instance, the NESP, the National Equipment Support Program, has done, and sometimes we ask ourselves, could we have done this individually, as single counties? So clawback is something that we always, as governors, have to be wary of. But this is why then there are these elaborate arrangements of intergovernmental architecture. And this is why also sometimes we go to the Senate and tell the Senate, this is not acceptable to us. And the Senate, much as we have a lot of other differences on other things, still remains and is the key protector of counties, protecting counties against Big Brother, protecting counties against themselves. So this is part of the robust architectural framework that we have. We have over 42, I think by the last time I checked, intergovernmental partnership agreements between county and national government. And we take this through a lot of, legal procedure. We get, lawyers to look at them to see, how it could end, whether it is a clawback through the back door. And by the time we agree to sign those intergovernmental partnership agreements at a full council, then we are fairly confident that it's an arrangement that works for us. Of course, clawback is not only by national government, or the fear of clawback is not only with respect to the national government. Increasingly, it's also with the National Assembly. And because the National Assembly is also becoming quasi-executive by virtue of the funds they handle, CDF, I don't want to get to the politics of that. There's Matters Equalization Fund.
It's there for accountability.
Right, Matters Equalization Fund. So the strict, separation of powers between executive, legislature, and the judiciary, and especially between executive and legislature, and the realities of our political patronage. I think those are things that will be with us for quite some time. But generally, I think this current administration has respected our space. Thank you.
We, the people, have created layers of accountability for the devolution unit, the devolved units. There's the county assembly, there's the Senate, and of course there's directly the people of Kenya. You have a council of governors. Do you use that council of governors as an accountability tool where you self-check and you self-call out for, I don't know how else to put it, for bad behavior?
Yeah, that's a good question. As chair of council, I don't have the, constitutional office powers that the people sitting on this panel with me have. I'm just a first among equals. I get elected. So the next year I will be elected on the 8th of October. So I'm more of a union official. But having said that, we also have, benchmarking and best practices and advisory and conversations that, out of respect, I can have as chair with individual governors. But I get this quite a lot when I visit counties where the public complain to me about their governors. So that's not my role as chair of council. But we try to do this through benchmarking, by sharing best practices, by not reinventing the wheel, and by also having honest conversations in our, council meetings. There are things I have publicly said as council chair, that as a leadership we will not protect non-remittances of statutory reductions, or continued budgeting of pending bills. And these are conversations that we have as governors, but the architecture is not such that the COG is not an oversight body, right? It is an intergovernmental relation outfit. Thank you.
It's an association, a club.
Yes. And then the other question of the layers of oversight, this is a live debate that we're having now. Where does the oversight role of county assembly end, and where does that of the Senate begin? And I know there's a panelist who said county assemblies may not have, what it takes to oversight. Yeah. I mean, it probably is. Then what are the requirements of being a county assembly member? Until very recently, the only positions that required any qualification was president and governor and their deputies. Everyone else could be elected with an ID. Now the courts have also said governors, like everybody else, need not have a degree. So those are debates that we have. We try to resist, as a council, appearing before the Senate for day-to-day operational accountability, and argued that that is best left to our CECs and the Assembly, and that the Senate comes in on big matters, on policy, when there's a crisis, when there's impeachment. But the court disagreed with us, so we have to appear before Senate as governors, and at times get asked why a bean card in a facility 300 kilometers from where you are has not been signed. So, I mean, the interpretation of law is done by the courts. We stand guided by the decisions of court until such a time when that changes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Governor. Your Excellency and honorable panelists, you'll acknowledge that we are actually making reference to the supreme law of the land. And the fact that we actually have a supreme law of the land that is so well known by many people is a big gain, like we've all said. And the fact that we can have such a day to hold ourselves accountable for what we are doing with the office, the high office that we've been given, is also a big plus. I'd like to come final round as we conclude this panel to look at institution level and the Constitution. And I'll start with you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. You understand this Constitution very well. You participated in making of this Constitution well, as did the President and the Honorable Speaker and the Honorable Chief Justice, everybody. But looking at the Constitution as it is now, and the institution of Parliament as we have created it, are there aspects of the Constitution that we have not gotten to the full realization of, whose benefits we are not yet reaping from Parliament? And are there ways in which the Constitution ties your hands as representatives of the people?
Thank you, Latif. When we take the oath of office, we swear to uphold and protect the Constitution. It's an obligation under Article 3 for every Kenyan, including yourself. You're bound to protect, uphold, and defend the Constitution. So that is something we must do. But as legislators, yes, there's ongoing discussions constantly. We have a committee on a Constitution Implementation Committee in Parliament. Its job is to constantly review various departments of the executive to find out if they have implemented the Constitution. So they're constantly bringing reports, and a lot of their recommendations have helped because they're able to look at the list on the schedules, what should have been implemented by what date, and they are ensuring that that is actually happening. So that is the role of Parliament. So Parliament can't just amend the Constitution, but our job is to have the Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee. But yes, there is also conversations in the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. I know which I sit on, when we have met the Electoral Commission and so on, and other arms of government, they say this probably needs to be changed. And what we have done is we normally give that report of Committee, and They're keeping a bank of that, so that when the time comes, when the Kenyans think that we should change the constitution, there will be a reference book and a reference document. So that is, and they've also taken stock of what needs to go to a referendum. Be changed under parliamentary initiative.
What fruits are we not reaping from this? Are contained we the people?
No, I think, like I said, having a constitution is not an event. It is a process. So we are walking that journey now. And that is why I want to thank Your Excellency for convening this, because this is a time for self-reflection as a country. It's giving us a chance to make this a conversation. And just the
Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Speaker Kingi, what are we not getting out of the Senate?
Well, I think you get
What more could we get out of the Senate?
one area need to be, clarity ought to be. Is the mandate of the Senate. Parliament, the working relation has been pretty good because I and Senator Wetangula tend to agree. But take, for example, the last Parliament. The Speaker of the Senate and the Speaker of the National Assembly are not seeing eye to eye. So we do not want to see this based on personal relationship between the office holders. Clear law that would define how these two houses work. And that's why.
And then we shall conclude with the Honorable Chief Justice and His Excellency the President. From our wordings and the spirit and letter of our Constitution, when we said we'd like to devolve power and to devolve some functions so that we have governance and closer decision-making to our people. In your experience in the last 10 years as governor, what are we not benefiting from yet from the
done its bit to equalize this country? This the is not one of political power in that sense. If I look at it rightly, it's one of economic devolution. It is of service delivery, the things that matter. Where there is ethnic federalism and states sometimes fight. Up arms against the neighboring state. I think it's good that we didn't go. But what we devolved is basic services and resources and decision making over those resources. Of course, how much you decentralize decisions with respect to resources, because if and you're responsible for answering the audit queries in the Houses of Senate and Parliament, however, and the Assembly, it can look a bit counterproductive. And counties have been accused of enforcement and enforcement generally, because the level of enforcement that our people know generally is uniformed enforcement. County askaris can only carry rungus. So at times, we may increasingly are seeing that bylaws made by counties may not get as much support in enforcement as national laws would. I think this is probably an area that we need to look at. So those are areas, how can we strengthen counties to have better enforcement? How can we require them to devolve their services further? Those are conversations that we can have. I think a lot has improved. As I said, our intergovernmental relations than when we started 13 years back, right? So, the expectations that there were in 2013 are not the same expectations. And a lot of times, a county's performance from that county said on the floor of the House by oversight authorities. This is part of politics which we have to deal with. Lastly, maybe to protect counties, I have a lot of respect for my brother Abdul Qadir Mohammed there, and I don't think, and also I might be clouded by the political realities of our counties. Was impeached before she formed her cabinet, and she kept being impeached until she was finally impeached. Right? So I think the courts have some role in protecting, such governors, where for sociocultural. Yeah. So I think, it's not fair that you cannot recall a member of parliament for the first 24 months. For the last 12 months. But you can impeach a governor before formed government. Those are some of the things we need to look at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Governor. I want to come to you, Honorable Chief Justice. Again, as we take stock of 16 years of our Constitution, as the 13 more from greater cooperation and interdependence with the other two arms of government. And so we'll start by saying what we are not getting.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just like the Deputy Speaker, what I can say is that our mandate as the judiciary is always to breathe life and spirit to the as it is. They keep bringing disputes to us, and judicially, as courageously interpreted the Constitution. I heard some of the panelists saying that the judiciary overreaches. When there is an issue of overreach, because also the jurisdiction is given to the courts by the very, very Constitution, that is Court of Appeal, and if the law allows, you can come or